Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, and welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is The Wise Ones. Joining us is the star of our show, Mr. red.olaughlin, and also our special guest, Jim Bobo. Let's welcome Mr. red.olaughlin. He is a key piece of what it is that we do here at USA Global TV and Radio, which is to inspire hope and to educate and also to entertain. We have a global audience and currently 37 shows going to 40 very soon. There's something for everyone. If you'd like to join us, go over to our website, USA Global TV and radio.com. Mr. red.olaughlin is a publisher. He is an Amazon #1 best-selling author. He is an expert when it comes to longevity, and he's written about many subjects in his various blogs. He's done thousands of pieces of writing. You just have to Google him and you will find him. He is not only the star of this show, but the show before this took over for the first Thursday of every month for the Corner Bookstore. And he's also one of our expert presenters on Talking Heads. And he's very soon starting with his own program, which is a panel program. And it's a secret. Let's welcome him out now. Joining us from the great state of Texas in the United States, red.olaughlin. Hello.
Howdy, Dr. Jacalyn. 40 shows. That means you're going to be cloned here pretty soon, right?
I have something up my sleeve that I'm working on to clone myself, but it won't look just like me. But the results will be the same, and I'll still be here. So,
well, I'm waiting until it gets to be 140 shows a week. So that's
where we're going, my friends, on this platform and expanding to other people's as well. So it's very exciting. So thank you for being here since the beginning.
That almost sounds like 24/7 coverage of Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, huh?
Well, it's not of me, it's of the world and whatever the topics are that are really resonating with people. As you know, we have so many different subjects, and that's because the people who join our team have a passion about something to help educate people from around the world. So you're a big part of that with your expertise on longevity, as well as all of the other topics that you presented on Talking Heads. So I'm going to spotlight you to share a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll bring out Jim.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Jacalyn. 15 years of age, I was a sophomore in high school. I fell in love with chemistry, got a degree in it, never had a chance to really follow up as a chemist because I got an invitation to Vietnam, came back. It was too late to get into that field. I ended up in many other fields. And it wasn't until a little less than 10 years ago, my wife came down with breast cancer. And in the process of trying to figure out what I could do to help her, I started getting back into researching chemistry and the side effects of drugs and what I could do to help as a caregiver. And I fell in love with chemistry again. And since then, I've been using my chemical background to look at the cells in the body, what happens to them chemically, what's causing something to happen. If you can treat a cause, you can fix a problem. If you treat a symptom, you'll always be treating symptoms. And so my whole focus changed to cause and effect. And that's what I write about. That's what I speak about. I have almost 1,000 original content articles on LinkedIn, like about 1,500 on my blog site. Almost all of them deal with some aspect of health and wellness. The vast majority deal with cause and effect analysis associated with those. The show that we're doing immediately after this on the USA Global TV and Radio Network is called Talking Heads. It started out this time as a 6-part series on cancer, the causes and options. Today is part 7 of 6. And if you join us today, you'll find out that Part 7 will be followed by part 8 of 6, because there's just so many things on the last slide that I wanted to present that I can't get it done in 6 sessions. So regardless, join me and you'll learn a whole lot more about what options for treatment you have today on cancer, and what their survival rates are, what is unique about them, how do they work, and regardless, let's get into today's show on the wise ones. I've known Jim Bobo for a number of years. We bumped into each other networking here in the Houston area. He is a character and a half. I love him. He's just a font of information on a particular topic that is called glutathione. And it's something that he has kind of developed a super interest in over the years. And I'm going to let him tell you the rest of the story. So, Jim, please join me on the show here today.
Thank you, Red. Yeah, I do trust you, and I value our friendship. It's been fun.
Jim Bobo. Bobo is kind of an interesting name. I've never ever asked you what's the genesis or what's the nationality.
I believe it's French, but I know I'm quite a bit English and Scottish. 3 of our family names are Young, McPherson, and Swayze. And then the Bobo would be something like Bourbeau, maybe, or Bourbon, maybe. But I don't know much about my French ancestors. I know that I had some French and Indian ancestors.
Okay. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Jim Bobo before he got involved in glutathione and health and wellness?
I was born in 1954. I was born in Greenfield, Massachusetts, and as was my dad, in the same hospital, and my 2 sisters. Let me see. I moved to Houston in 1979. So the whole year of 1980 was when I started my copier business. And I started out in the copier business called Copier Sales and Service Incorporated. Incorporated in 1994. And in 2018, I sold my customer base. That may have been a mistake, but it was 1998 that I really developed an interest in glutathione. So if you don't mind, I'll segue into how I got interested in glutathione.
Let's go down that road.
Okay. It's a lot more important than copiers, toner. You could make a case that glutathione, along with oxygen and water, are the most important molecules in the body. You don't want to be deficient in magnesium or calcium, obviously, and the B vitamins, the C vitamins, everything that is an antioxidant works because of glutathione. And, Red, you mentioned chemistry. Well, chemistry is about electrons, about positive charges and negative charges. One example of that would be hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is positively charged. Well, for oxygen to enter hemoglobin, it requires glutathione. Glutathione actually pulls oxygen into hemoglobin because it's negatively charged. So talk about chemistry. One thing that I have, my little moniker for my business is live healthy longer. So I'm 68. I've had numerous issues, things like allergies and frequent colds and things like that. I find that ever since 1998, raising glutathione, that's been ameliorated. It's gone down. I think I still have allergies, and I am highly allergic to poison oak, as I found out. I'm looking at my arms. It's gone away, but there are so many toxins in our environment. They've done histological studies on 200 toxins, and there are more than that. But they found all 200 of these toxins in tissues. And the scary part is that they found these 200 toxins in babies' umbilical cords, all 200 of those that they tested for. So things like formaldehyde and benzene and pesticides, they're heavy metals like cadmium, lead, mercury. These are all removed by glutathione. It is a universal, ubiquitous molecule that God created that is surrounded by a cloud of electrons. So it's electron rich.
So what you're looking at in a free radical a particular molecule doesn't have a full set of electrons, and as such, it's unstable. And so a free radical comes in, bumps into a normal molecule that's healthy, otherwise unaffected, and it rips a molecule from them to stabilize itself. Well, in the meantime, the molecule that was attacked now becomes a free radical, and it's going out looking for targets that it can grab an electron from and be stable. So when you have an antioxidant that can provide an electron and not become a free radical, then you have a major benefit as an antioxidant. There are some particular ones, as we know, like vitamin C can be reused, I think, 6 times before it becomes inert. There are some, one of my particular favorite ones is PQQ that can be used 25,000 times, but it has to be in the presence of glutathione in order to do that. So if glutathione is present, it kind of reactivates that army of 1 to be an army of 25,000. And so it's a major benefit for health of the body, because that any kind of disease starts literally, as you know, at the cellular level with chronic low-level inflammation brought on by this inflammatory attack of free radicals. And so as glutathione is present in the body, it has a calming effect. It doesn't allow that inflammation to get to the next level, which is oxidative stress. It's just a lot of things that glutathione is, hey, I'm here, I'm going to take care of it. It just goes to work and does its thing.
Right. And that's well said, because, vitamin C will give up its hydrogen, give up its electron, and it then becomes a free radical, and it can be rejuvenated by glutathione. As you said, glutathione is the master molecule. It's the master antioxidant, and it will donate its electron. The interesting thing about the way God created it is when it becomes oxidized, it doesn't become a free radical itself. It becomes GSSG, and it can be rejuvenated itself. And you talked about 25,000 times, hundreds of thousands of times. And alpha lipoic acid can actually help rejuvenate glutathione. So it'll make sure it becomes stable and it becomes a source of electrons. In fact, this just occurred to me in my conversations with my friend Roger, that glutathione, if you looked at your cells and the mitochondria inside the cells, they would be like batteries. There are chemical reactions taking place, pulling in lots of oxygen to make adenosine triphosphate, ATP. We've all heard of that. That's the energy molecule. Well, in doing that, it creates free radicals. And that's why the mitochondria require glutathione to inhibit the mutation of DNA. I never knew that. 2 or 3 months ago, I didn't know that. But in my conversations with Roger and Stephen K. Scott, I see that mutation it can occur inside cells. And you know what mutation is. I'm not going to use the C word.
The interesting part about the mitochondria is that it basically, in my talk the last 6 weeks, I talked about the 2 different theories of cancer, the C word. The cancer, for most of our medical profession, views it as a genetic dysfunction of DNA. However, 100 years ago, with Otto Warburg, he got a 1931 Nobel Prize talking about the molecular respiration in the cell with the mitochondria. And when those mitochondria, as you talked about, are dysfunctional, they create the dysfunction or the mutation in the DNA. And if you treat it as a molecular disease as opposed to a genetic disease, you get 2 entirely different worlds of treatment. And that's what I have been touching on, but I'll be talking more about today. But you're right about the mitochondria being that absolute level that we need that level of protection. And glutathione has many, many protective benefits, health benefits, but you need sulfur in order to get that glutathione going. And that's usually caused by cysteine. And you mentioned ALA, alpha lipoic acid, but NAC, N-acetylcysteine, cysteine, sulfur, methionine. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do naturally to increase our levels of glutathione in the body. But you also have, that you've told me about, and you have patches, you have pills, you have a lot of things that can do. So why don't we go down the road of how does the body benefit from glutathione, and then how does the body replace glutathione in whatever ways that might be necessary?
Well, I think that's a great segue. Let's back up to what you said about sulfur. Sulfur is a thiol, and glutathione is a thiol, which means it's a sulfur-containing amino acid. When I listened to Dr. Kongshaben talk about this, she would explain that glutathione is a thiol because cysteine, the L-cysteine component of glutathione, is a thiol. So there are 3 amino acids, and we pretty much commonly get glycine and glutamic acid in our diet, but cysteine is very rare in the diet. You can find it in raw milk. I do drink raw milk, by the way, and I drink it because it just tastes so good. And then the proteins are intact. So it was 1998 when I first learned about glutathione, and it was 3 doctors. One of them was Dr. Gustavo Bunos, who had done extensive research on a particular whey protein that contained cysteine, but it contained it in the form of a dipeptide. So you can see my website is cysteine.com, Cystine, which is the double amino acid, and cysteine, of course, is 2 cysteines make a cysteine, if I could say it that way. So now, Dr. Bunos, who I highly respected, I met him in person. Dr. Jimmy Gutman, who is a world authority on glutathione, has written probably 4 or 5 books. So Gutman is spelled Gutman. If you want to go out and buy his book on glutathione, it is extensive and it's very complete. But without being too technical, Dr. Patricia Kongshaven worked with Dr. Bunos, and she's the one that made a statement that I'll read here. She said that the bioactive or the biochemical activity of glutathione is really because of its sulfur-containing portion, which is the cysteine molecule, Cysteine, and that gives the glutathione its biochemical activity. And remember, we're talking about electrons. So electrons and sulfur. Sulfur holds that hydrogen ion, and it can jump off and neutralize a free radical. I don't know. Hopefully that's not too complex. So these 4 doctors and others have written volumes about this amazing molecule. So in fact, the NIH database called PubMed, and there are over 175,000 research articles published on PubMed. I even downloaded one today. In fact, it's this last page that it was about 3 hours ago that you and I talked and said we were going to do this show. And I started writing down an outline, but the NIH article has to do with inducing glutathione depletion, to study that. So I won't go into that. But if I may, I'll go through some of my outline, 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, so 1 is glutathione is the master molecule. It's the master antioxidant. We talked about vitamin C, and vitamin E is the same thing, although it's a fat soluble vitamin. Vitamin C is very important, ascorbate. The product that I'm going to be talking about, which is Numi, contains ascorbate. It is nano-sized. We call it hydrostat nanotechnology. So the glutathione molecules and the ascorbate and the L-cysteine and alpha-lipoic acid are all very tiny. They're broken up so that they are 10 to 100 nanometer size. It takes 1,000 nanometers to equal a micron. And I believe and I may be wrong about this, but 80,000 nanometers is the width of a human hair. So you really can't see it. The glutathione is the only antioxidant that neutralizes and sequesters all free radicals. And I'm going to introduce a new term here, and I only learned about this a couple months ago. It's called peroxynitrite. Peroxynitrite. It's called a reactive nitrogen species, and it's thousands of times more damaging and powerful than reactive oxygen species. And guess what? Where's my cell phone? Here we are right here. It's not showing up. Here it is. You can't really see it. But the cell phone towers are producing 5G radiation, taking nitrogen in the body and in the cells and creating peroxynitrite, which is an extremely damaging free radical. And the point that I'm making is that glutathione is the only antioxidant that will neutralize and sequester RNS, which is peroxynitrite.
Okay, when you're talking about the oxygen species, reactive oxygen species, the reactive nitrogen species, these are specific types of free radicals. Not every free radical is the same. Not every antioxidant is the same, but some are more dangerous than others. And you just pointed out that the RNS, the reactive nitrogen species, is more higher risk than the reactive oxygen species. Now, in some cases, a certain level of reactive oxygen species can be okay, but you get in excessive levels, it can damage a lot of things. So there's not only what they are, but how many of them you have there. And as you mentioned with the cell phone towers, this is something new for us in the last 5 years or so. And I've seen, at the beginning, all these worries about the environment's going to be polluted with this because of the 5G, but they never went in to say why. And you're telling us today this is one of the reasons why, because that reactive nitrogen species, RNS, is a culprit in the body at the levels that we're seeing, especially when we put our phone up like this and we're getting a little bit closer, again, more of. And so it's a matter of awareness. That's what you're doing here today, that we have a problem. But when we get these extra species of free radicals in the body, they just don't go away by themselves. And left over time, they create a lot of damage. But if your body is making glutathione, or if you're taking supplemental glutathione by a number of ways, either by eating properly or by supplements, then you are helping to fight off some of that environmental catastrophe that's happening in our body. Is that a fair way of saying it?
Yeah, I like to try to keep things simple because I'm not a doctor, and I have to learn from molecular biologists and red.olaughlin type people, and so to keep it simple, these cell phone towers and these routers are cooking our brains, cooking our cells. That's a bad thing. Glutathione is the only antioxidant that is multi-focused. It focuses on every antioxidant, every free radical, including RNS, which is peroxynitrite. And then the other way to make it simple is to say that this oxidation that's taking place, the reactive oxygen species and nitrogen species, are actually rusting our body. So if you think about this, oxidation is rusting of body tissue, of cell walls, of cell components. I said earlier that glutathione protects the mitochondria from mutation, that protects the DNA of the mitochondria so I believe that we can potentially live healthy and vibrant to 130, and so you would need a normal level or a good level of antioxidants in order to do that. And without a doubt, glutathione is the most important to prevent tissue degeneration, and what I would call rusting.
What other benefits besides the mitochondrial level in the body? I know that it's being used in ulcerative colitis, it's being used in dementia, it's being used in Parkinson's. It seems like to me there's a number. I know it improves insulin sensitivity. So for diabetics, that's a big deal.
A good example is, when you mentioned Parkinson's, there's an area of the brain called the substantia nigra, and it's in this area, the basal ganglia. And when they've done a histological study, and I've just learned this from Dr. Gutman, that they take that tissue, the substantia nigra, and do that study, and they find evidence of tissue damage, number one, and negligible levels of glutathione. So it's almost like, do you put the cart before the horse? Is it low glutathione that causes disease, or is disease causing low glutathione levels? I mean, we know that glutathione is being used up constantly. And that's another important point I wanted to make, Red, because glutathione is very delicate. It has a 90-minute half-life. So we know from studies that the blood contains glutathione, and it'll last for perhaps 24 hours. So it's got a very short half-life, 90 minutes, but it's found in the blood and goes to the cells. So the trick is to increase absorption. And Numi has done that sublingually. And I can show you a little bit. This is a bottle of Numi. Can't really see it that well. There we go. And instead of an IV glutathione or glutathione injections, IV, or liposomal. Liposomal means fat encapsulated. Fat encapsulated glutathione does not really make it to the cells quickly or efficiently. This, now I just pour a little bit here into the cap. I put it in my mouth, probably a third of a teaspoon, and it enters sublingually. So I don't swallow it. I let it sit in my mouth and next to the tongue and the cheeks, and let it absorb. And we feel like from studies that we've done that it enters the cells within 70 seconds. Now, what about cost? Well, IV glutathione could be a couple $100 every time you get an IV, and it makes you feel good for 6 hours, and it lasts about 24 hours, maybe 36 hours. You feel pretty good, but then you go back to baseline. Well, with Numi, I swish about 5 or 6 times a day. I do it whenever I think about it, and I'll do it maybe every couple hours, and it's only a third of a teaspoon that I put in there. And the ingredients are structured water, very, very pure structured water, alpha lipoic acid, cysteine, glutathione, and ascorbate, and then there's potassium sorbate, I believe for to preserve it, and then there's a little bit of a peppermint taste. So it doesn't taste bad. It tastes like water. You can almost taste a little bit of sulfur in it, but it's not overwhelming. It's very easy to take. You do it frequently. You do not drink it. And just to give you a little plug for Numi, we have 17 credentialed medical doctors and a few chiropractors, but mostly the MDs and PhDs that are on the medical advisory board. And these men and women are not getting paid. They are in an advisory capacity as volunteers.
Okay, so you're telling us, Jim, that there is a supplement out there that you can put in your mouth, swish around for a while. In about a minute, most of it will be absorbed subliminally. It's an inexpensive supplement, something that people could consider if they're already doing something that's expensive. This becomes an option for them. So at the end of the show,
there's an example.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. There's an example. It just made me think about my mom. My mom's 98. We've been raising glutathione for 12 years with her. She's been taking a whey protein isolate. That's the whey that Dr. Bunos and Dr. Kongshaven began studying. I don't know, 30 years ago, I think. May have been 35 years ago. And so that has benefited my mom. But I do not think, and like I said, I'm not a researcher. I'm only giving you my opinion that Immunical or the whey protein is great, but it's not as efficient or as inexpensive as Numi.
Okay.
And it has to, the whey protein has to travel through the stomach, which can destroy amino acids. But Numi travels sublingually, so it's entering the cells within 70 seconds. This is really a breakthrough. And the man who founded the company, Stephen Scott, working with the scientists that developed this, found a way to nano-size glutathione and place it in structured water that acts as a carrier for glutathione so that it enters sublingually. I mean, he's got a breakthrough here. This is just quite amazing.
Yeah, nanotechnology is a double-edged sword because we use it for our benefit, but we don't know the detriments that come because nanoparticles are in our healthcare products. It goes right through the skin, and if it has toxins in it, it's yanking those right on through too. So the nanotechnology is really a good deal, but you got to be aware of what is in whatever product you're at. Now, I know that you shared with me some personal stories particularly some issues you had, I think, with your knees, running baseball here. I know you're avid in that sport. So why don't you give us a little bit of history about what's happened to you and what you've done to overcome some of your health problems?
Well, I'm pretty sure it was in the late 60s or 70s or early 70s that I injured my knee for the first time. And I badly injured my left knee 1973, I believe it was. And then I got an operation to remove some of the meniscus or the interior cruciate ligament. So I've been dealing with knee issues, and I've had 4 knee operations. Now, here's a kind of a segue into the other product that they have called Numi Skin Spray. And if you go on my website, the first thing you'll see is before and after pictures of ladies and gentlemen who have sprayed their face with this. And it's a little bit different than the Numi Swish. So you take it like this and you just close your eyes and spray it on your face and let it absorb. So we're talking about nanotechnology. Since there are no toxins in Numi Skin Spray, it enters through the skin. And what made me think about that was that I actually have been spraying my knees. I don't have an absolutely amazing testimony, but I do know that the skin spray has nano-sized collagen in it. So that's what I'm hoping that will benefit me. I hope to look younger. In a couple of years, year and a half, I'll be 70. So, and I want to continue to play softball. So I do spray my skin, and I've been spraying my knees with the Numi Skin Spray.
Well, I know you're continually telling me about new things that happen in the health and wellness area, particularly when they center around some aspect of glutathione. So I know that you're super active in continual learning. I know you're involved. You send me links for various, Zoom meetings or webinars or things like that. So there's a lot of information out there. As you said, 5 years ago, we didn't know about this. And if you are stuck in what you're doing, you're going to be doing that all the time. So it's part of our awareness here on this show and on other ones is that we provide this information, sometimes in an entertaining way, that people say, hey, I just heard something today from Jim. I need to get in touch with him and say, I need to know more information. But the glutathione, there's just so many things in the body that it does that we don't even, we focused on one little aspect here. But in reality, we can attack it naturally by eating the right kinds of foods, getting the right amino acids so it combines. We can take other things that help it. We've mentioned sulfur. I think there's selenium and turmeric, if I remember. There's a couple, 3 others out there that help the body and that overall process. So it's, as you say, the master antioxidant, but it is more than just a simple antioxidant as far as the body's concerned, because it's just involved in so many aspects of our health. And
well, that's a good segue too, Red. That's a great segue.
Take it away, Jim.
I'm glad you mentioned that because all we talked about was antioxidant capacity, but it is a thiol. It's a sticky molecule. And what I mean by that is, and when you said you studied chemistry when you were younger, everything's about positives and negatives, and glutathione is negatively charged. It's loaded with electrons. And that's the way God created it. It doesn't become a free radical. It can rejuvenate itself. And the second part of my outline was detoxification. It's very important. It'll stick to toxins like I said, pesticides, formaldehyde, heavy metals, cadmium, lead, mercury, things like that. It'll stick to it and it removes it through the bile in the liver. As a consequence of that, the liver is loaded with glutathione, and it must be. Acetaminophen, there are things that are called acetaminophen overdoses. And in order to raise glutathione quickly in the emergency room, to save the liver and to save the patient's life, they will use NAC, which you're familiar with NAC, N-acetylcysteine. Mm-hmm. I think for your normal pedestrian like me, NAC is probably not the best way to raise glutathione. It carries a certain toxicity itself, but it does work. The point is nanosizing just the the regular, normal, natural amino acid L-cysteine and nanosizing glutathione in order to because they are tiny compared to the size of a cell. A cell is pretty big. If you have clumps of glutathione, it won't enter the cell. So getting back to detoxification, the body has a way of removing, and the cells have a way of removing toxins that are in our environment, probably more than they were 200 years ago, heavy metals, and it removes it through the bile or the urine. So it works closely with pure water. I'm reading my notes. The liver and kidney are loaded with glutathione. The brain must have glutathione to remove toxins. And of course, we have the blood-brain barrier, and glutathione and water will pass through that. The problem with glutathione is it's very delicate. When it enters the stomach, it gets broken up and it won't make it to the cells. And the other problem is that since it has a 90-minute half-life, it gets used up very rapidly. I mean, nobody has 105% glutathione. It doesn't work that way. You have something called negative feedback inhibition. And so therefore, your cells won't have more glutathione than that, like glutathione toxicity. It doesn't exist. There's a feedback that prevents that from happening. But it is the most natural, powerful substance. And the other thing about the 90-minute half-life is that since it's getting used up as we age, every decade of life, your glutathione levels deplete. And I shouldn't use the word deplete. There's another way to say this, that your cells reduce their production of glutathione 10 to 15% every decade. I want to say this the correct way, because if you're a person in their 90s, like my mom's 98, glutathione is very important for detoxification and antioxidant capacity. And then there's a third point that I wanted to make, and I want to give you a chance to say something about that in case you wanted to interject something.
Why don't you go ahead and cover the third one, because I was getting ready to wrap things up here in the next minute or two.
So the third point, of course, and this is can't be understated. This is what Dr. Patricia Conchavin says, that you cannot underestimate or understate the importance of glutathione. The immune system is totally dependent upon glutathione. Lymphocytes require oxygen to go into what they call expansion. It's called monoclonal expansion. So just like the mitochondria using oxygen, everything uses oxygen to burn and to produce things. It's like little factories. It's got to have oxygen for fuel. The byproducts of that are oxyradicals. And glutathione sequesters those antioxidants and donates its electrons without becoming a free radical. Isn't that amazing? I mean, so NUMMI has come up with this hydrostat nanotechnology. And again, the molecules are so small that they can enter the cell easily within 70 seconds. So as you age, as we said before, it's important to boost your immune system by having adequate levels of glutathione available for the white blood cells to react. And then there's another thing about the immune system. When the job is done, the bacteria, viruses, or the bad guys, the oxidation and oxidative stress is sequestered and it's neutralized. The lymphocytes need to go back into their normal, their normal state. So you have things called suppressor cells. Those suppressor cells need glutathione to suppress the immune response. So there's two things happening there. There's actually a bunch of things happening there. There are cells that recognize viruses and bacteria and cancers and goes and attacks them through macrophages and lymphocytes. But then you have to have a suppressing response. You have to have the suppressor cells that are fueled by glutathione. Every cell, every chemical reaction in the body is fueled by glutathione because it's almost like a cloud of electrons that facilitates those chemical reactions.
Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap up the show here. Tell people how to get in touch with you. What kind of people are you looking for, and how do they contact you?
Well, some people would like to just take the product and try it out, and by the way, my mom has a friend in her assisted living where she is, and she's 89, and she told me, Jim, after 3 or 4 days, I could tell that this was working. I have more energy. I feel better. And that's very rewarding. And of course, you could be rewarded financially for this. If you want to, you can join Numi. Just go to cystine.com, press order, or you can go to the other website, which is numi.com/cystine, and that will take you to my website. You can click on that. You can look at the medical advisory board. You can order. You can join the company. And this is an incredible company headed by Stephen K. Scott. By the way,
spell
tonight,
Numi for us.
Okay, Neumi.
Okay.
So it would be numi.com/cystine, Cystine. That will get you to my website. Or you can reach it by just going to cystine.com, Cystine.com. That's easy. And I wanted to say one more thing.
How do they contact you?
Yeah, to contact me, my number is 281-235-7008, or you can reach me by cystine1@yahoo.com, Cystine and the number 1@yahoo.com. On the website, you can access the medical advisory board under the tools. You will be able to see I think it's 16 or 17 doctors that are involved with Numi. And then read a little bit about the science. And then if you email me and you want any of the information, like this one-page paper that Dr. Kongshapen wrote about the science of glutathione, I can do that. My friend Roger gave me information the other day that I copied off, and I also want to say something about Stephen Scott. This is a man who's hired a lot of actors to sell his products on television. Well, he decided to do this through network marketing, and that's where network marketing comes in. It's word of mouth. It's really good news. And by telling other people about it, sending them to your website, which is totally free, the company gives you a free website and a free back office, and they have an electronic wallet, so that when they pay you, you get your money. This is really a genius way of marketing. And the cost is about $125 a month. And besides the free website, you get your product. You get and I'm going to show you again. And they're coming out with another product too in a couple of months.
And not only
it will use nanotechnology.
And not only do they get the product in the business, they get the income tax write-offs, and there's so many things there when you're your own entrepreneur and you own your business. But anyway, we've concluded our time today. I appreciate it. Contact Jim Bobo at Cystine, Cystine1, the number 1 at yahoo.com, or go to his website at www.cystine.com. And he's very responsive. I'll tell you that. So you get in touch with him, he will get right back at you.
And
so thank you very much. One more thing.
Red,
one more thing.
You don't have to be a scientist or a doctor to understand this. You take this about 5 or 6 times a day, swish in your mouth, let it sit in there as long as you can. And it's not rocket science. You don't have to know the science. You just know that you feel better, and you should be taking notes. Find, anything that you're struggling with now, see what happens in a month or so, and use the spray and take a before and after picture as well.
Yeah, almost anything that you're starting new, especially if you're on any kind of prescription med, double check with your doctor just to be on the safe side. It's just one of those just personal responsibility things. Mm-hmm. And it generally takes 4 or 5 weeks to see a change. Sometimes it happens earlier, sometimes it happens later. Everybody's a little different. Everybody has problems. So anyway, Jim, I really and truly appreciate you joining us today. I know we chatted very recently. It's kind of a short, hey, can you be on the show today? And I appreciate you taking the heat for that and making my show extremely valuable today for people. So thank you.
Thank you, Red. I appreciate our friendship.
And very shortly, 9 minutes, I will be running over to another studio, and we'll be talking heads portion of the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Today is part 7 of 6 on cancer causes and options, and I'll be going into a lot of detail as to what are the treatments And what do we really need to know about that, so that if you know somebody with cancer, or you're coming down with cancer, you were just told, at least you have more awareness of being able to talk to your physician as to, what really makes sense. So Red here at red.olaughlin.com on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Please give me a call at 281-687-1188, or my email, red, R-E-D, like the color, .olaughlin, OLAUGHLIN @gmail.com. Thank you again, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week on the Wise Ones here on the USA Global TV Network. Bye now.